Hello, class. How are you today? Wow, that was a little close. All right. What class is this? Enriched geometry, quadratic equations, Q4, the quadratic formula. What was the quadratic formula? I think I learned that in Algebra 1, but that was toward the end of the year and I wasn't paying attention. So let me see if maybe I could review that a little bit, see what happens. Okay, all right, let's see what's going on. Solve x squared minus 9 equals 0. Well, I think I can do that. That was from the last worksheet. We, if there's no x term, you can just take the square root of both sides, but we don't want it right now. We want to add 9 first, and then, once the thing that's squared is by itself, then we will take the square root of both sides. So the square root and the square cancel. However, a positive number squared and a negative number squared are the same thing. So the plus or minus pops up from over there. Now the square root of 9 is 3. And we've done it. But what if we wanted to solve it using the quadratic formula? Okay, let's try that. Maybe this will be easier. Okay, the quadratic formula is, all right, the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And if you don't believe me, you can check on the internet. It will tell you that this is the quadratic formula. Now, we solve for x. That's what this does. X equals x equals. We have to plug in a, b, and c and simplify it, and that's all we have to do. But what is a, b, and c? Good question. All right. If you have something x squared plus something x plus something, so this is descending order, x squared, x, and a number. The number in front of the x squared, we're going to call a and put it there and there. The number in front of the x we'll call b, we'll put it there and there. And the number at the end, c, we'll put it there. Okay, so this shouldn't have been an x. This should have been a, 0. 0 equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So this 0 is that 0. Okay. Now, we'll put the 0 on this side. 0 equals. X squared goes first. The number in front of it is a 1. Then the x term goes next. There isn't one, so I'll put 0x. And the number goes at the end. That will be the minus 9. So now, clearly, a is 1, b is 0, and c is negative 9. A is 1, b is 0, and c is negative 9. So now all we have to do is plug that into our formula and we'll have it. Okay. All right. So x equals negative b, negative 0, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 0 squared, that's 0, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 9, all over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay. Negative 0 is the same as 0. 0 minus, okay, what is negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 9 is positive 36. So now we have 0 plus 36, which is just 36, all over 2. Okay, the square root of 36 is 6. 0 plus or minus 6. Well, 0 doesn't matter. So we have plus or minus 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So we get plus or minus 3. And the last time we did this problem, which was the same problem, we got, what did we get? What did we? We got plus or minus 3. We got the same thing. Look, the quadratic formula works nicely. Ooh, interesting. The nice thing about the quadratic formula is it always works. The bad thing about the quadratic formula is I don't see any bad thing. I love the quadratic formula. Okay. Solve these problems, making sure to simplify your answer. So don't stop too soon. So this is the final simplified answer. Okay, let's try to solve this bad boy. X squared minus 3x minus 3 equals 0. So clearly A is 1, B is negative 3, and C is negative 3. Clearly A is 1, B is negative 3, and C is negative 3. So X equals, the quadratic formula was negative B, the negative of negative 3 is positive 3, plus or minus the square root of B, negative 3 squared, maybe I should write this out so I don't make any careless mistakes, minus 4 times 1 times negative 3, all over 2 times 1, 2a. So negative 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. And 2 times 1 is 2. 9 plus 12 is 21. And we can simplify 21. Wait, or can we? We can split up 21 into 7 times 3, but we can't take the square root or the square root of 3. We're done? We can't simplify this at all? Yeah, that's a weird looking answer. So if we plug this answer back in, it will actually work and give me 0? Well, it looks tricky. Maybe I should do that sometime. Maybe not right now, but that looks interesting to try to plug it in and see if it works. Okay, let's try the next one. A is 1. B is 3. And C is negative 10. Now, X equals negative B, negative 3, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. 2 times 1. Was I in the way? Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. C is negative 10 all over 2A. Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9. Be careful with this computation. There's a bunch of negatives. They get tricky. If this is a positive or a negative, once you square it, it's always positive. Now be careful with the next sign. That's a very common place to make a mistake. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 40 over 2. 9 plus 40 is 49. And we're done. Or are we? The square root of 49. Oh, that has a nice whole number square root. The square root of 49 is 7. So we get negative 3 plus or minus 7 over 2. Now we're done. Or are we? Negative 3 plus 7, that's negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And the other one, negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. Divided by 2 is negative 5. Now we're done. And as an interesting side note, x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. I think I could solve that one by factoring. So this is the same problem. What if I would have factored that? X times x is x squared. 5 times 2 is 10, which gives me a 3 if I have a plus 5 and a minus 2. Did I make a mistake? What's negative 3 plus 7? Is it positive 4 or negative 4? Negative 3 plus 7 is positive 4. Positive 4 divided by 2 is positive 2. I made a mistake right at the end. Okay, no big deal. Now I factored this. Plus 5 minus 2. A positive 5 times a negative 2 is my negative 10. 5x minus 2x is my 3x. Now what makes this 0? Negative 5. And what makes this 0? Positive 2. I could have solved this one by factoring, but here I did it the hard way, using the quadratic formula. I love the quadratic formula, but look, maybe it's a little trickier to get the right answer than factoring. Interesting. Okay, this one, we'll try one more. A is 1, B is 4, and C is 2. X equals negative B, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of B squared, 4 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 2, all over 2a. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay. Negative 4, plus or minus. Be careful with this number. 16 minus 4 times 1 is 4. 16 minus 8. 4 squared is 16 minus 8 over 2. 16 minus 8 is 8. And we're done. Or are we? Can we simplify 8? 8 we can split up into 4 times 2. Now, the square root of 4 is 2, so that comes out. So we have negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. Now, since we're adding or subtracting, we have to distribute the 2 to both parts. So it's this divided by 2 and this divided by 2. Now, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So my final answer is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. Interesting. So sometimes we get some crazy looking answers like this. Okay, so to recap, now, the at the end, the simplifying at the end. So be careful of your sign at the beginning, and then try to simplify at the end. So let's recap simplifying at the end. So if you get down to something like this, are you done? The square root of 5, you cannot split up. 5 times 1 is 5, but that doesn't help. If you distribute, you would get negative 3 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2. Now you can't reduce the 3 over 2 or the 5 over 2. So distributing really didn't help. So on a test, I would accept either answer. But this one is more common. But if you distribute it, it's not wrong. It just didn't really help you. Okay. Now this one. You're not done because you can take the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3. And now you're not done because you can keep going. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0 over 2, which is 0. And negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. Or you might have something like this. So this one, we can simplify 12 because 4 times 3 is 12, and the square root of 4 is 2. So now we have negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 3. Now I said distributing was optional, but here if you distribute, you can simplify, which is required. You're required to simplify. So 6 over 2 is 3, and 2 over 2 is 1, for a final answer of negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3. Okay, so these are the different types of answers, the different types of situations that may pop up. Go ahead and try your practice problems. Try simplifying these. So like this is like something you'd get toward the end of the quadratic formula. There's an extra dot evidently in 4 that I wouldn't need. And then these problems, follow the directions, solve using the quadratic formula, solve by factoring or taking square roots. You should get the same answer. And these you can solve using any method. And if you look up above, I think the quadratic formula is the hardest method. So if you can take the square root of both sides, that's easier. If you can factor, that's easier. But if none of those work, you can always use the quadratic formula because that always works. But that is the most error-prone, trickiest method. Good luck.